In a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hi, guys. Sorry about the delay. I was had a little problems getting on.
Hello.
Dorothy, good day. Kim, how you doing?
I'm on.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Jordans, how y'all doing?
Okay, dear.
Fine. It's
Yeah,
good
I
to
say
see
hi to
you.
you.
Miss Boyle. Miss Boyle, can I hear your voice, please?
Hey guys, I'm in the basement, so I'm doing terrible. I'm in class too, so um, I think class is about to start, but I'm listening.
Okay. Good day, Miss Granville.
Good day.
Tamika, hi.
Good evening, everyone. And Mr. Thurton, how are you?
Doing very, very good. Crystal, you're on the move.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
What was that?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I am on the move. I'm sorry. I'm between things and trying to do my best to join what I'm able to. Of
Thank you very much for joining.
course.
Oh, thanks for joining. Mr. Brother Drew, it's good having you. You know what? Chris, I know that you're short on time, and Chiose should be joining shortly.
Hi, Mark.
I think he's on.
I've been on. I also do have to hop off at 6:30. I have a night show
Okay.
resident association meeting.
Okay, we had some questions. So what do you guys think? Should we run through the questions or just do an open discussion since we're pretty short on time?
I
Let's do
think an
open
open
discussions.
discussion would be good because we both have to jump off.
Tim, Crystal, you're in the car too?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
I also do have someone from my staff that's on here as well, who should be joining soon, Christina Serrano.
Okay. All right. So public safety, that's like the hottest topic now. And yeah, that's the main thing. Everybody's going back to work, trying to make things safe. Businesses are trying to open back up on increased foot traffic on Nostrand, Kingston, and Utica Avenue. So you know that those are our concern spots. We also have Vanderbilt and the other areas to the west, which has been doing very good. But we have these areas also on the eastern section that's of concern. We also have concerns with our youth because I must say the community board and the 77th precinct and our precinct council and the clergies, we all have the same common mind about not just about decreasing crime, but also trying to divert the kids from going into crime. So the 77th, I give them a big shout out because they have been putting a lot of emphasis on trying to grab the youth and get the youth involved. And that's extremely important for our community to divert our kids from the gangs and from crime. Since we're going to do an open discussion, guys, you have any questions or say and Crystal, you guys want to start off with things that you guys are looking to do for the community in reference to public safety, education, and economic
Absolutely. I'll let
Sure.
Councilmember Osei go first.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Mark, for putting this meeting together. It's always a honor to speak to all of you, even if it's virtual. So just to speak to the work that we have been doing in our office, as well as the plans that we are hoping to do in the future, especially as we move into the summer. In terms of working with our youth, that has been a driving force throughout my entire tenure and even prior to stepping into the city council. We are about to launch our youth advisory council in April. As some of you may know, I chair the committee on cultural affairs, libraries, and international intergroup relations. And throughout some of the schools that we've been touring all over the district, there's been an interest throughout high schools, middle schools, elementary schools in the arts, and also an accessibility to the arts in these schools. And while, I think many people believe that in the traditional sense, we want to get our young folks into the workforce. We're trying to diversify what the workforce looks like, as well as a diversity of interests for our young people. So we will be taking, some middle schools and CB8 to MoMA, to a couple other museums, and a part of the Youth Advisory Council is also just giving the youth a seat at the table in terms of the work that I do as a city council member. A lot of the times I'm even looking on this call, we're talking about helping the youth, but the only young person on this call is the only person in the ages of 18 to 28 is maybe me, so or Kelvin. So I think when we need to prioritize the inclusion of young people in these conversations, and a part of the work that we are trying to do is making sure that outreach is happening, and so that these young people aren't being talked down to, because that is how they feel a lot of the times. In terms of some of the crime that we are having in CB8, through conversations with the DA, as well as the 77th precinct. We still are on a downward trend. That's not to say that incidents do not happen, but we are on a downward trend, which is amazing. The DA is launching a project called Project Restoration, which will direct a sizable amount of funds towards restorative justice, and I don't want to use the word targeting, but reaching out to those that are more likely to engage in gun violence within our district. And those individuals have been identified. It's, not run by the police department, which is an important aspect of this because there are a lot of young people that do not have the best perception of the police. And I think trying alternative ways and reaching out to some of these potential offenders is I think a great step in the right direction in building bonds and providing opportunity to those that may need it. Through talking to the DA, and Mark, you probably know this, but those that participate in gun violence and in shootouts is a very small select group of people. And I think when there is investment into their futures, as well as mental health and services of that nature, I do believe that that's a path in the right direction. So I will be, working alongside the DA and making sure the word, gets out about all the work that is going on through that program. And then the final thing I would like to add in terms of, what we're doing with gun violence is, I'm co-chair of the Brooklyn delegation. My colleague, Councilmember Hudson, is also a part of that delegation, obviously. And one of our initiatives that we are hoping to present and ask of the speaker, because of how prevalent gun violence is in central Brooklyn, especially here in the 36th and parts of the 35th, is a steep investment in our cure violence organizations. Some of them, including SOS, do great work. However, when you look at the catchment areas in which they cover, it's very limited to where else we would like to include more support. So we're trying to scale what capacity would look like for them to grow their operations, and also providing financial support through the speaker's office. But thank you again for having me this evening, and I'll stay on here as long as I can.
Okay. And Chris,
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Councilmember Osei. One thing I wanted to mention is community safety councils or teams. I don't know that we've finalized the official title yet, but we launched one in the southern part of Crown Heights to deal with a lot of the gun violence that we've been experiencing at Ebbets Field specifically. We'll be launching more of those community safety teams or safety councils across the rest of the district, including CB8. And really the purpose, this was driven by the borough president's office. And, the purpose is to bring people together, obviously all of whom have a vested interest in the community and in the safety of the community. And it's really a means to, number one, have a group of folks that are prepared to and able to react immediately to any incident of gun violence. And so it includes members from the district attorney's office, from the local police precinct, and then community members. Obviously, it would include members of the Public Safety Committee here at Community Board 8, and really also have an ongoing conversation around how we continue to keep our community safe, by investing in our youth and creating opportunities for people, opportunities other than, violence, obviously. So I look forward to working closely with you all to develop and create the one for the Community Board 8 catchment area. And as Councilmember Osei said, I won't belabor the point, but we're all making efforts in the City Council to really address the gun violence issues that we've seen plaguing our communities and really predominantly in central Brooklyn. All of the council members who have been impacted or who have districts who've been impacted have been talking fairly regularly about how we actually address the issue through, deeper investments in our communities. And as the council member said, we're looking for ways to get speaker funding so that we can really double and triple down on our efforts to address gun violence. And that would include, I have a proposal for a basic income in the zip codes with the highest rates of gun violence. We know that there's a direct correlation between lack of economic opportunity and increased gun violence. And we've heard from people who have participated in gun buyback programs who say $250 and an iPad isn't enough. We need housing, we need jobs. And so, my proposal, hopefully will be approved and funded, and we can have a pilot program in central Brooklyn in our districts that would invest in, provide a basic income to folks who, need help maybe paying the rent or putting food on the table and wouldn't have to resort to, engaging in violence and other illegal activities in order to do so. So, I'm hopeful that with all of the investments and attention and commitments that we've been hearing about and seeing from both the administration and also the council, that we can actually, make some real meaningful change. And I did want to mention that I have Kristen Jeffries from my team, my director of constituent services and community engagement, is on the line. So when I have to hop off in a few minutes, she'll remain on the line. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm glad you guys went through education. Our economic development, the city's opening back up. Public safety, economic development, and increased foot traffic on these areas that has so much potentials. But what is your take on that? How you can support? Let's say, for example, we have Utica Avenue, which has so much potentials. We have Nostrand Avenue, which has so much potential, and also Kingston. They just need some support, because when I speak with them, a lot of the vendors are saying that, yeah, everybody just comes in, talks some stuff, but then after a while, we don't see them any longer. What is your take? And you have plans for economic development in our community so we can increase the tax dollars within our community?
Yeah, supporting our small businesses and ensuring that our commercial corridors are successful is, key to ensuring that we have, a successful return from the pandemic, the economic crisis, and everything that we've all been experiencing. Councilmember Osei and I have been talking about a business improvement district for Nostrand Avenue, because we share, parts of Nostrand Avenue. And so, we're just now starting to look into the process and have conversations. We've been having conversations with small business owners, which is why we know there's a need for that in particular. But I think, exploring those opportunities and making sure that we also help to create destinations out of some of these commercial corridors is exactly how we will allow them to and support them in flourishing.
Yeah, I do want to echo Councilmember Hudson's statements. And I'm sure, sorry about the noise in the background, but I'm sure many of you know the benefits of a bid. And, to me, a bid is great, obviously, for supporting in the flourishing of our small businesses, but also in just the general improvement of the entire Nostrand Avenue corridor, whether it's lighting, whether it's sanitation, whether it's more seating for, bus stops. These are all parts of making our community safer, or at least appearing safer, especially on the lighting front, and I truly believe in the sanitation front as well.
Very good. Brian, we have Brian Saunders, who's the chair for the Economic Development Committee. Brian, do you have any questions that you have?
I actually have Drew pose the questions for me. So Drew, do you want to do that for me, please? I was just in between different things at this moment. Drew, you there?
May not be there.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? Because I don't, this is Janet Collins. I don't see my name on the screen.
Yes,
Yes,
Janet,
sir.
we can hear you.
But can you see my name on the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I can't see my own name. Thank you. I just
But
wanted to make sure.
yes, Mark, you did raise a valid points, and it was good to hear from Councilman Hudson and Osei also about the different things that we have in store for the corridors. You know, as you know, both of us have been going up and down these corridors and trying to get the concerns of the small businesses and how can we help them, and with education and as far as funding and different things of that nature. So I look forward to working with both of you and to see how we can just improve it and bring more awareness and help these people out, these mom and pop stores in the community as well.
All right. Thank you, Brian. We have Ms. Granville, and we have Lisa also from the Housing Committee. Ms. Granville, you have concerns with our housing complex. I'm quite sure that they voiced their concerns.
I spoke to one of my members the other day, and she was saying to me, she lives in Kingsborough houses, that she's very concerned because she would like to see more visibility on the part of the police in her area. And also she feels that the youth needs someplace to go. And when we say youth, she's talking about between ages 12 and 13 and up, because it seems like they don't have any place to go and they don't have anything to do.
I disagree.
And that's a good way for them to begin to get into trouble when they don't have anything to do.
Well, I'll take that one, Miss Granville, and thank you for that question. In terms of a place for the youth to go, again, as chair on the Committee of Cultural Affairs, we have one of, in my opinion, the best cultural institutions in our district, which is the Weeksville Heritage Center. And while it does have, a museum space, there's also community space at that location as well. So I will bring this up to them, see what type of, and I know they are working on program already.
Okay.
I think Weeksville has so much potential. It's underutilized. I mean, we can definitely use that even more.
Programming.
Lisa with housing also. Lisa Atkins. You can unmute yourself, Lisa.
Good evening, everybody. Being a representative that actually lives and who's on a community board who actually lives in Kingsborough, I can speak more of that. I live across the street from the Weeksville Heritage Center. They definitely do not, how can I say, they don't promote themselves to the people that live here. And growing up, there's plenty of people who has never been in there and they live across the street from there. My daughter has taken many tours. My mother has gone over there. We have been in there, of course, but there are many people that know nothing about that. And they definitely need to step up with different programs for the kids to come in there. They used to come to the PS 335 when my daughter was in PS 335, and they would have little walk down tours and things like that. They're not doing that. My daughter went to the junior high school that's in there, MS 898, which is one of the greatest. I'm just gonna brag about that, one of the greatest junior high schools ever. But they literally they didn't come over there to do that either. So they're missing out on the kids. There's great kids here that can have some type of activities to go in there. So they do need to have a better promotion on how to get the kids in there and do some type of programs for the kids in there. It's unfair that the kids that live in Kingsborough, at one time their community center was taken away from them as well. And the parks over here are different parks around here are getting built up, but ours aren't. So they chose to pick one park to fill out, but there's one in the middle that they forget that Kingsborough is not just the first and second walk. There is the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh walk. So there's parks over there too for the kids that if they're going to fix a playground out, fix them all up so the kids can have somewhere to play. They don't have anywhere to play, to do things. They don't have nowhere to go. So, the kids that live in the surrounding NYCHA projects, they still need to be cared for. they shouldn't be just thrown to the wayside, because what I hear from people is like, oh, they're just housing. No, people in housing don't have anything. I work for the city. I have several degrees. Don't think because we live in housing that we don't have, we don't deserve the same things. We don't deserve to have the same type of programs that other kids have. They deserve these programs. Like I had to take my daughter for high school, to take her out of the district to find a better school to give her the programs that she needs. And that's sad, but that's what happens in our community. So public safety for me is like, get these programs in there for them to learn how to do stuff. Get these kids some type of vocational trainings. Get these kids some type of after school care programs. Get a community center for our kids to go to. That's stuff that we need to have.
Lisa, if you could put your contact information in the chat, I would love to see if we could coordinate a meeting between self and the president of the Weeksville Heritage Center, so that we could have a more in-depth conversation about
Very good. That's an excellent move. Thank you very much. In reference to the section of Community Board 8, 1 second. Darlene Mealy was invited, but it was a conflict of interest, so she was not able to participate. Miss Collins, I'm going to get to you 1 second. Sharon Wedderburn, could you speak, and do you have any concerns about education?
Sorry, just one really quick second. This is Crystal. I just wanted to address the last person's comment briefly.
I'm sorry,
and then
Crystal,
I have
yes.
no problem. And then I have to jump off. But I was just going to say, all of her points are well taken. And I know Councilmember Osei will follow up. I think I just wanted to make a more general statement about investment in our schools and after school programs in particular. That's what we have our discretionary funding for, and we make allocations to community-based organizations and nonprofit organizations that are committed to providing programming, supplemental programming.
We have recreation
schools.
centers. We have playgrounds. We're working earnestly to improve the schools. And Lisa, I hear you about not having the right educational opportunities within 16 and 17 for all students. But one of the things that we especially need is some sort of community hub. And we do have a property that is located within the old firehouse on Bergen Street. Somehow we need to be able to convert that space to make it accessible. Not all kids are going to be athletes, but we do want them to have a cultural connection and to have the opportunity to have a cultural space, a theater space, an organizational space, a place where you might be able to hear lectures in addition to what's available in Weeksville, but being able to have a space where one can gather and organize, and perhaps develop the civil engagement that we know is going to make our community prosper. As kids are more, I should say, as young adults become more wedded to their community, they're more in defense of their community, they take ownership of the community. And I think with that ownership, you're going to see an essential reduction in the hood, so to speak, in terms of not wanting to defile their own neighborhoods.
And Sharon, I just want to respond to that point just right before I leave, but I know that maybe this hasn't been the case in the past, but I don't see
What happened to
everything
us?
that you listed. I think they have much direction, nor do I think they have much contact with
You're breaking up,
You're breaking up.
We don't hear you.
And I thought it was me. I was getting ready to apologize for latency issues here.
So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I was just saying to Sharon's comment that, everything that you shared is
You went out again.
Tompkins houses. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was saying that, okay, I was saying that, I completely agree with everything that you're saying about the need for a community center. However, I literally toured the Weeksville Heritage Center on Friday, and every single sentiment that you shared is something that they want to provide to the community. Now, I don't know if you have had a conversation with the president there, or if Lisa has had a conversation with the president there in depth about the types of services that this community would like to see them provide. But this is definitely something that I think and have heard from them that they want to do within our part of the district. So if you are open to being a part of that conversation, I would love to bring you in that too.
Councilman Osei, I missed most of what you had to say.
But what he was saying is that in reference to the Weeksville, he would definitely like to join forces and see how it can be beneficial to the community. And Osei, I must say, you guys are our new elected city council. You guys are stepping up. I see you on the streets of Crown Heights on a regular basis. Janet, you have something to say before he runs off?
Yes, I do. I think, first of all, good evening, everybody. And I certainly do agree with what I've heard so far about getting our children engaged. I think we also need to add another component, and that is with the parents. Getting a certain awareness to the parents about the different resources, not necessarily in our immediate community, but in New York City totally, where they can take their child. So I think that parent engagement piece needs to be added in. There's the Brooklyn Museum. I mean, there's Museum of Harlem. There's so many different places. There's ice skating in Prospect Park, the Carousel. So I think along with looking at, what for our children to do, we need to bring the parents in and get them involved in a program where they can also take their children places instead of just letting them play out on the street with nothing to do.
Absolutely. And I do have to run, but Lisa, I have your contact information. Sharon, can you put yours in the or Mark, can you just send me everyone's contact that was on this or in this committee so that I can start making headway on organizing a follow-up with Weeksville and any to answer any more further questions.
Osei, thank you very much for taking the time out. I mean, I'm going to say literally, this is my first time I had a personal communication with my city council for the 36th district, and thank you very much, and all the best for working with the community, with the police and our education. Technology in the school and music is right. You know how I feel about that.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for the time.
Bye-bye.
Can I assume that the crickets that I heard in response to my suggestion means that folks aren't interested in going in that direction, or what?
Janet, I'm actually typing. Janet, I'm actually typing something in the chat. Excuse me, y'all. I'm totally out of protocol. I should have raised my hand. But one of the things that you have to look at is organizations that are particularly skilled. Karen mentioned also too that you need guidance. The one organization that I've been associated with for a number of years that's particularly skillful in developing a program where children and adults talk to each other and, sort of modeling the behavior would be the Junior League of Brooklyn. So one of the things that we have to do is have a direct program that's targeting our community, and that would involve getting in touch with the community vice president for the Junior League of Brooklyn. They've done great work in establishing programs for, mentoring teenage girls in foster care. They've done things like co-orientation program for the Brooklyn Child Advocacy Center. And they've also had direct interdiction in terms of nutrition and parenting skills in different programs that they've run in the past. So we have to look at the existing not-for-profits that have a track record, not crickets, but just a lot of direction. And it has to be a scope of a program and a mutual interest in the program. You can have a program, but if no parents feel that this is particularly applicable to them, they won't go to it. And also District 17, in terms of their, they call them FLTs, family coordinators, basically family and community coordinators within the district. They also run many programs that are beneficial in targeting parents as opposed to students. So before we say there's nothing that exists, let's see what's on the board.
Regina, we're going to come to you, but Sharon, I don't think that's what she was saying. I think what she was saying is that there's availability of cultural activities and events that goes on all in the city, and we're not taking advantage of it. And maybe how is it that they can, the people in our community that's not taking advantage of it, how can they be exposed, get the information, and participate in it? I
Okay.
think that,
All right, sorry. It's a pathway question and not a
That's
capacity issue.
exactly correct, Mark. And I was speaking about getting parents involved
yes.
to
Okay.
accompany the students, their children. And let's not leave them out. It's very important.
Yes. Regina?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Regina. Yes, we can. Thank you for coming on.
And thank you for inviting me. So I just want to acknowledge Ms. Collins, and once again, I'm in total agreement with her. I truly believe that there should be more parental involvement, more parental engagement, and absolutely more parental accountability. And that's the one thing that I rarely hear anyone say is parental accountability. I had a question because it was presented to us that if we had any questions, and being the vice chair of the senior committee, the question that I had for the 77th and the council members from the seniors were, with the heightened spike in crime and the recent attacks on seniors throughout the city, how do you best propose to keep the senior population safe in our community?
Yes,
So
Regina. Yeah, I'm glad that you spoke on that because we did have a list, but we was the city council people was extremely short on time. So we put it as we set the meeting up to have an open discussion, and they made their plans, and you know, we just had well, we just exchanged ideas of what can be done. But in reference to this, I did send that questionnaire over to them, and I'll ask them to respond to it from their perspective. And also with something like that, maybe the 77th could, I'm quite sure they've been working on it, and maybe they can respond to it. You had two questions or just one?
Just the one. In light of the heightened crime spike and the attacks against seniors, how do you propose to keep the seniors safe in our community? I know I heard a lot about safety councils and other things, but nothing really about keeping us safe.
When you say us, Regina, you fall in the seniors also?
The community, well, yes. Yes. I'm scared. I'm looking over my shoulder. I know the seniors that I work with. You know, they're afraid to leave. They're afraid to leave, and then you know, no one's comfortable walking around anymore in light of everything that's taking place in the city as a whole. And I understand about the programs for the kids and different things like that. But in the meantime, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. We need to discuss them now because these crimes are happening in real time. So what can we do about it?
Vidal, from the 77th precinct, do you have any perspective on that? Oh, we had a response from Jeffries.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Police Officer Kelvin Vidal from the 77th Precinct Crime Prevention Office. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything, we haven't really been able to go out and have these physical meetings with our seniors. They've kind of been closed off, and we do tend to share a lot of information. Before, when we had these open meetings, we would go to their community centers and actually share a lot of the information of current crimes and current tactics that criminals are using against our seniors. And we haven't been there yet. And hopefully soon enough, we'll be able to visit these centers and share this information one-on-one with our seniors and giving them tips on how to try to prevent them from being victims and caught up in these crimes. Just recently, we had our seniors are being targeted for phone scams. We had one this week where one of our seniors lost out and at approximately, I want to say about $3,000 of her savings, with someone calling up saying they were part of the Con Edison and they threatened to.
He called me.
They called you?
Last week, they called
Yeah.
me. I was on the subway and he
Yeah.
gave me a number to call. I even called Con Ed and I gave
Yes.
Con Ed the number and I said, you guys need to pay attention to this because this is
Yes.
what's going on.
So
Um,
the way that we can combat these type of crimes and I know that Miss Kinsley was more referring to like street crime and stuff, but also this helps with street crime as well, and speaking to our seniors and how to walk the streets, how to communicate with people when they are going to go out, not to go out by themselves. And all these things and getting the information out to them actually helps and does help bring down these type of crimes. And I do want to bring light to like what you said, this Con Edison, we did have just like I said, a victim, and that's a lot of money. And
Yes.
they are very aggressive. They threaten to cut your power out. They're very
Yes.
they use their tactics. They change their caller ID to mimic the Con Edison's caller ID, and they have all this
Yes.
technology.
It
And
has the whole technology of if you're willing to pay
exactly,
your bill online, press this. It has
exactly.
everything.
Yeah, they have all that, and we want to get out and communicate to our seniors on how to combat and not fall into these traps that these people have for them.
Right, right.
Yes. I
That's
think it's
that's good. That's good for the interior
phone
crime.
crimes
But
and
it does
internet
help. It
crimes.
does help also with exterior crimes because in communicating to our seniors on how to travel these streets and not traveling by themselves and traveling well-lit areas, and being aware where there's cameras, where there are not cameras, and communicating all this information to them does help them with in regards to street crimes.
Okay. Karen?
Yes. Hi, guys. One of the things in terms of the Con Ed situation, I think what needs to start happening is we have PSAs. PSAs need to be on the TVs because seniors watch a lot of TV and it needs to come on for them late night or any time for them because they're often up very late because they can't sleep well. So that's something that they need. That's number one. Number two, I thought of patrols, volunteer patrols, because there's stuff like that happening in Bushwick right now where people are being attacked when they were coming home from the subway, and neighbors formed those patrols to escort people from the subway to their homes, just like Shoreham does in Crown Heights. We need to start doing that because if we don't protect each other, no one will. And number three, I also on my off time counsel kids. And I have, for example, I have a kid right now who is 13, 14. There are three boys in the house. When they get home from school, they don't do anything else. They can't come outside. They live in the projects. And that's because the mother is kind of like, I guess she doesn't want them to come out. The other part of it is I was trying to take them out, even to the park. She hasn't vaccinated them. And she's scared. I'm vaccinated. And she says to me, oh, well, I didn't do it because they're ADHD and they have medication. I don't want a conflict. So there needs to be some education, like someone said, for the parents. The parents need to be more proactive and open to let their kids enjoy, like someone else said, all the artistic and museum. Because I asked the kid on Friday, I said, when was the last time you went to a museum? And he can't even tell me. So when we have that kind of issue, we need to go to the parents and the child. So we're going to have counseling and resources for both sides to really get this done, because I can't break that parent's arm for me to take the kid out. She isn't comfortable with that. So I can't blame her. Little children are being shot at this point. Children,
Yeah,
3,
but I'm
4,
not
5,
talking about
7.
shot.
You cannot go out and enjoy yourself. It's to that. That's where we are in New York, and we need to face the reality of it. So I would be
Right,
afraid to
I'm
send
not
my
talking
child
about
out as
shot.
well.
I'm counseling him for socialize. He has to get more social. He's having anger because he's inside and he doesn't get a chance. So in order for his socialization skills to get better, he needs to be able to interact. So if I am the counselor
and I'm willing to come to his home and walk with him to the park that's across the street, we should be able to do that because this helps this guy's development. This is where the anger, because he's asking me, what words can I use so that I don't respond in anger? Everybody says I'm angry. Do you understand what's already happening with his psychological self? So this is why I'm saying it has to work on both sides. The parents need help, counseling, understanding why they need to do certain things for their children. And then we also have to work with those kids.
If I could just say one thing about seniors, in response to what Regina was saying, I noticed a lot of seniors when I go up and down Nostrand Avenue in the community who are stopping in the middle of the sidewalk to look at their cell phone. Totally distracted. A nice praise for anybody who wants to come up, and that's another thing I've been noticing. I just wanted to say that before the conversation got too far away.
Okay.
About how seniors are carrying themselves in public.
All right. I mean, but it should be a safe way that you should be able to, but definitely so. That's a concern. Tamika?
Yes, good evening. Question, Officer Vidal. This senior committee is very vibrant. Ms. Gilbrand, Muhammad, they're not technologically advanced, so they do have me and Miss Martha Brown was the same wavelength. They have their monthly meetings on the 77th precinct, just like at the beginning of our meetings, usually at the beginning of the public safety meeting, they give like a overview of the crime in the community. Can someone possibly attend their meeting and give something specific for the seniors?
Sure. Me and Gail just actually privately exchanged information. So
okay.
I will be attending the next senior committee meeting.
Because CBA has a very vibrant senior citizen committee, and they're always on point. So
yes,
I'm sure they will welcome you with open arms.
Oh, definitely.
That's
definitely.
all.
I have previously attended the meetings. I miss when we had them down at Kingston Live. And I know it's not video; it's by phone, so it's but
just getting
helping getting the message
really
across
need.
would help definitely by any means.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
That's the way to go for the community board, public safety, and other establishments in our community working together. Ms. Granville.
Tamika basically made the point I wanted to make, and I'm so happy she said it because our seniors are not high tech, but they are desperately interested in everything that's going on around them. And they would really appreciate it if someone from the police or precinct would come out and explain to them certain basic things, what they need to look out for, what they should do and should not do. I'm sure they would appreciate it. And I know as I'm getting older, I appreciate the tips that you all give. So please come out.
All right.
In support of Officer Vidal, he's no stranger to the senior committee. I believe he's already been to one of our conference calls, probably our first one. He's no stranger to the committee. He is the go-to officer that always come out and discuss things with the seniors.
Okay. Kristen?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Again, I'm representing Councilmember Crystal Hudson. I am her Director of Constituent Services and Community Engagement. So happy to be here. I just wanted to touch base on the conversation around our older adults. So the Councilmember does chair the Committee on Aging. So our older adults are really important to us, and she holds them very close and dear to her heart. And I do want to thank our local law enforcement. We partner with all of our precincts to make sure that, there's safety for all of our residents, but particularly our older adults. So I just wanted to say I'm going to drop my info in the chat. If there's very specific cases or specific older adults that you folks are worried about, we'd love to have this conversation with you moving forward, and so that you have a direct contact in our office. Again, if there's specific cases or just general ideas that you guys want to share with the council member, I'm happy to pass them along to her. She definitely wants to hear this conversation. So I'm going to just drop my info in the chat. So thank you again. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Kristen. As a matter of fact, there was concerns on part of the questions that we had for our city council. I think Gail is on here. Her hand is raised. Gail, could you go ahead? Could you also
Okay, thank you, and good evening to everyone. I'd like to thank Officer Fidel because, as Regina said, he's attended several of the senior meetings. I'm glad to be reminded tonight because we have to continue to update them on different scams that are out there. So he is no stranger to the senior committee. We've also had Darryl White come out and speak from Letitia James's Attorney General's office on other things that involve seniors. So again, I appreciate and thank you for Tamika for mentioning it, but we will have, we've asked Officer Bizal to come out to our next meeting in April. So
All
thank
right.
you, and thank you, Regina, for tuning in.
Vidal, well, we're using you up all in community board, and
You're welcome.
that's how it goes.
That's what I'm here for, Mark.
Yeah, one other thing I
me
forgot.
up.
We also have to thank Brian Saunders, because one of the issues that involves seniors and them being afraid to go out, a lot of these meetings take place in the evening and they're afraid to leave their homes. And Brian Saunders and the 77 Precinct Community Affairs Unit has provided transportation to our seniors so that they can attend precinct council meetings and other meetings that take place in the evening. So I thank Brian for doing that.
So that's the answer to your two questions that were submitted?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, Dorothy?
I have a question for Officer Vidal. Do you know if in New York City, does Amazon have the locked garage service available to homeowners?
As far as in the urban communities, I believe they do. I don't know if they have them here within New York City as of yet. They were trying to start a program where I don't think this actually took off, where they would put your packages in the trunk of your vehicle for you, but I don't think that actually took off here in New York City. What we recommend are the lockers if you're not going to be home, and try to schedule, like if you order multiple packages, try to get them all delivered on one date. That way you get all your packages on one date when you are home. So they're not delivered all spread out throughout the week. And also, I think more importantly are the Amazon lockers. It's probably the best thing to use.
No, I'm asking the question because my granddaughter has this, and I thought there are homeowners that have garages in our community, maybe not a lot, but that you have a code, a private code for your garage, and that comes with the service from Amazon, and they deliver it and they put it into the garage and it's locked until you come home. So I just, brought it up in case if the service is available in the community or in the city, that homeowners in our community could possibly take advantage, and that would stop some of the package theft.
And I agree with you, Dorothy, and that is one of the services they provide. I'm just not positive whether they actually are doing that here in the city itself. But I know if you have a garage and you can access it remotely, they do deliver within the garage and secure the package in the garage. But that's something that maybe maybe another meeting or something, maybe we can get somebody from Amazon to come in and represent it and give more information about those type of programs that people really are not too familiar with. But the garage is one. I'm just not positive whether they have it here in New York City.
Okay, thank you very much.
And team, Ethel, I'll be right with you. I apologize. When we had the city council, this was an issue that we've been having. We've been talking for weeks about the scooters on the sidewalk. I'm sorry I didn't bring that up to the city council to see what they recommend on that, because that is a concern. But we'll double back on them and see, bring up the concern. That was not part of the question. That should have been identified as a question, but I'll add that as a question to send it over to the city council, see how they can address the scooters in our neighborhood, which is a major concern. And Ethel? Ethel, you have your hand up?
Thank you. I've unmuted myself. I don't know if I jumped the line, but anyway, I wanted to share personal experience with package theft. I bought a Nest camera for my door, and I would recommend for people who are concerned about package theft to consider either a Ring or a Nest doorbell camera. And I would recommend that you get the battery operated one. That's the easiest one to do. When people see those cameras, they just keep on going. They don't even come in your yard.
Okay. Vidal, I've been having, people have been coming up to me with concerns. On Nostrand Avenue, there's a lot of homelessness. There's a lot of, women are concerned about when they come home in the evening and during the daytime that they have a lot of these people that's homeless. It seems like that's on Nostrand. I know that homelessness is a concern throughout the city, but it is a concern that our women and our elderlies have on Nostrand, and we don't want it to be where that they're distracted or discouraged to come on Nostrand and spend their money, because we want the city to be open up, and we want our community to open up and everyone feel comfortable. Is there anything that that can be addressed on that part?
Sure. One thing I want to first say is that, being homeless is not a crime in itself. So these are people that do need help, and we do try to go out and offer services. And some of them take the services that we offer, and some don't. We do have in the vicinity of Nostrand Avenue, we do have a men's shelter at 1322 Bedford Avenue. So you might see people commuting back and forth, from that shelter, and sometimes they have certain rules in there that they have to abide by. I don't know the specific rules in there. Maybe in a future meeting we can get somebody from there. That way we could know more or less what their rules are as far as them being in at a certain time and what their curfew are. That's something that I think we should all know. But as far as, we do have officers on Nostrand Avenue. We don't have foot posts. We do have patrol cars going, up and down Nostrand Avenue. We do have our NCOs, which is for Nostrand Avenue. We have Melendez and Officer Perez, and they are aware of, the issue with the homeless people actually as they walking through Nostrand Avenue, or sometimes, on Nostrand Avenue. So that's something that they are aware of, and they are, trying to address.
Marva, could you do me a favor? I'm going to just take one more question from Ethel. I want you to just take a look at the chat, see if there's anything coming up. We're going to send it back over to Vidal, because Vidal wants to speak about the new program that was implemented last week. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate that 77 Precinct is part of this program. But Ethel, you had something.
I wanted to suggest that, as the officer said, homelessness is not a crime. If the nearest buildings, including the merchant businesses along the avenues, have cameras, we may be able to identify people who need help and get them the help that they need. And in addition to that, we will be able to identify anyone who is committing assaults or robberies or anything like that. So I'm reading that there's certain neighborhoods on the island where the store owners have banded together to make sure that they use their cameras in their storefronts to have a lookout on the sidewalk, and ditto for the intersections going along Pacific in between Kingston and Nostrand, because I've noticed that just stopping at the light on either Brooklyn Avenue or New York Avenue, and being surrounded by 2 or 3 people asking for money. So there's that.
Thank you for that. Anything in the chat, Marva, that's of that was not covered? Okay, Celine, you have anything?
No. In terms of public safety, though, when you just mentioned homelessness, it's not always the obvious. Over the years, actually more recently, I think last week we had an incident of like an intoxicated person. They're not always easily identifiable, these these this homeless issue, because of course it's a shelter, so like people have different issues. It's not always just drug abuse. Sometimes it could be alcoholism, or any host of issues. So I find that at this point, we've most certainly identified the actual homeless ones who are like, have issues with severe drug abuse. It's more so the like the intoxication, like have jobs but don't have anywhere to live. So as soon as they get out of work, they're like spending their whole checks real quick and getting super duper kind of wasted, and creating huge nuisances on the corridor, because they're going like from bar to bar to bar. And again, they don't look homeless, they don't act homeless. It's just kind of like a problem that I've started to notice, is like that intoxication that you don't normally see, and then once you do see it, you're like, okay, now I know where this came from. So I think that's something else to just keep an eye out for if we're talking about our NCOs. And I don't know if it's something that's been brought to their attention, because it happens somewhat far and few in between, but post pandemic, I'm kind of scared to think of anything that's not going to be far and few between. As the summer months come, the streets are getting busier, restaurants, everywhere is getting busier. So just to be mindful of just other situations we may not have had to look at or pay attention to before.
Okay. Yeah, Celine, you got on the call late. Our city council representatives, Crystal Hudson and Osei said that they were joining forces and was going to be looking at the corridors. The one that they have that they jointly share is Nostrand Avenue. So they're looking to definitely work on that, and they'll definitely keep you in the loop. We'll definitely give your information over. Ms. Granville, I'll be right with you. Christina, you're from Osei's office?
Yes, I'm from Councilmember Chiosei's office. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for participating. You were the one I was sending the emails to?
Yes, that's me.
Right. All right. I'm unfortunately I can't see you, but that's okay. We'll be meeting up sometime soon. Kwasi, thank you for joining, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being late. I got the wrong time messed up.
That's all right, my brother. Princess, you have anything, Princess? Michelle, are you on the call, or is this Michelle? I'm going to ask. We're going to need to give to give the host over to Vidal shortly. Princess, you had any concerns? I know, Princess, we had that concern on Rogers Avenue with the speeding. That was brought up to the transportation committee. It's also it's a concern with us as public safety also. No? Come back if you come on back on if you can unmute yourself. Ms. Granville?
I just wanted to call attention to the note that Marva had added to the chat, that there are 2,500 empty supportive housing units in the city. we need to push to get unhoused people in those units. And I find it ironic that about 10 years ago, we had decided that we, as a community board, had more than our share of supportive housing. And I'm thinking, as I'm looking at this, that when we talk about having affordable housing shortages, nobody's talking about the apartments that are being warehoused in public housing right now. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I wanted to call attention to Marva's note.
Thank you. Thank you, Marva. Thank you, Ms. Granville. 2,500 empty houses, huh? Housing. That's a large amount.
Yes.
Okay. Celine, you have one more question?
Yeah, it was also to note to Marva's comment. My question in regard to that being an offense that can be given a summons by officers when we're going back up for our renewals and complaints get people ask about the complaints, how would that affect the establishment going up for renewals if we're calling for public intoxication violations? Will that hurt us?
It's not on the establishment, it's on the individual person. So maybe they won't choose to be drunk in the street in front of, the Nostrand Avenue business corridor, right? And if you're saying that they're looking like they're not home, they're probably people that have homes. Maybe they just don't want to be in their home. What's going on in the household. So people are drinking in the streets more and doing drugs in the street more.
Okay, I just worry about just calling to the address, and then when it's asked, does this address have any complaints, and then things like that come up. So that's, I guess, my only worry.
No, it's not the establishment.
Okay. We have a caller with a 347 ending in 17. You have a concern, or also please identify yourself if possible. How does he or her unmute herself? I think I lost her. Just got off. Jordan, do you have anything?
Questions?
You good?
Yes.
Quasi.
No questions.
Okay, Michelle or Julia, are you on? Okay, let me see if I can.
Hi, sorry, Mr. Turkman, I was trying.
Yes, Princess. I can.
Princess, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. We are facing a problem in Rogers Avenue where they're speeding. And as you said, Mark, I had brought it up with you, and I think we need to address that. Because the speeding, we're up to them standing outside, waiting, and a car flew past me. We're still having that problem on Rogers Avenue. And there's a school there, they're 138. Between Rogers and Nostrand. So kids are constantly crossing between Prospect and Rogers and Park and Rogers to go to school.
Yes, and unfortunately, you and I were at the site last year when those motorists had
Yes.
accident at that location.
Yes, I remember. Yep. And it was all had to do with speeding.
Yes. Yeah. Vidal, that is, as you know, is Sector Boy, and hopefully.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass on that information to our new traffic sergeant. So our highway safety sergeant. We have Sergeant Rodriguez. So I'm going to pass that information on to her. I believe there's also two speed cameras on Rogers Avenue. They might be a little further north than what you're describing, but they are like two speed cameras on
Oh,
Rogers
yes.
now.
But but they don't care because it's on Rogers between Park and Prospect. So happened that
Yeah.
it's there. I've
Yeah.
seen it and they still speed.
Yeah. But that's one thing that because we've had this concern before, and that speed camera was put in there. And but I am going to pass that information on to our new highway safety sergeant, which is Sergeant Rodriguez.
I do appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll definitely, that's extremely important. Vidal, I'm trying to give you,
Well, let me see if I can actually play the video. It's a video about our information on our neighborhood safety teams that was just started last week. Our commanding officer did explain it quite a bit actually at our last community council meeting. I think most of the people that are on this meeting were there. Some people were not. So I just want to play this video. This information, it gives you a wide information of what this program is and how basically they're going to move forward with it. So I'm going to try to share it. Let's see if it works. And let's see what happens.
do you have Sharon? All right, there you go, buddy.
Yeah, he's sharing.
Intelligence-based policing is beginning now in New York City with the deployment of the NYPD's new neighborhood safety teams. These hand-selected, highly trained officers integrate crime reduction, precision policing, and community engagement in a concentrated effort to remove illegal guns from our streets and to address all crime conditions that impact our public safety and quality of life. The teams will be focused in the handful of precincts and public housing areas that account for the vast majority of shootings in our city. This is a highly collaborative approach, which relies on strong communication between the police and the community we serve. After all, no one knows a neighborhood better than the people who live and work there, and no one has a greater stake in its security. We will work together at every turn. And here's what New Yorkers can expect to see when their neighborhood safety teams are deployed across the city. A modified version of the NYPD uniform with clear, instantly recognizable markings that identify them as police officers. Body-worn cameras, and every vehicle will also be equipped with a dashboard-mounted camera. This is a reimagined, redesigned approach to suppressing violent street crime, and it starts with getting the right people to do the job. Officers and supervisors applying to the unit are extensively vetted, and their work history with the NYPD is thoroughly reviewed. Once selected, each member undergoes 50 hours of training over 7 days, including training on the constitutional aspects of policing, specialized instruction in safety and tactics, law and policy, conflict resolution, de-escalation, and more. And the training continues with regularly scheduled refresher courses taught throughout the year. The NYPD and the people we serve are in this together. And we are of one mind. Violence and disorder should never be tolerated in our city. To that end, the neighborhood safety teams are the next component in the department's public safety mission because we will never stop fighting for New Yorkers. The next era of intelligence-based
Yes. Hello? Okay. So that was the video. I hope that gave you a lot more information. And for those of you that weren't at the other previous meetings where all this information was shared, hopefully answered a lot of questions that you guys might have.
Questions, anyone? Oh, there we go. I see some hands over there.
Got lots of hands.
Quasi, we'll start off with you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that very informative video. But I have two questions. Number one, can we get a copy of this video for our personal records?
Actually, the video is going to be available on our social media pages.
Okay. The second question is this: all this is well and good, but we have a DA in Manhattan who seems to take a very soft approach to crime. He's pretty much has decriminalized, things like resisting arrest. So how do you apply these tactics with someone called progressive in light of a DA that is going even further to the extreme?
I think that question is a little bit more above my pay grade. So I'm gonna pass on that one there. But if, as far as dealing with the district attorneys, that's something beyond what we can do here at the 77 precinct.
Was you good?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
PR?
Hi. As a mother of two sons, of course, like anyone else, I want illegal handguns off the street. But at the same time, it worries me that Black men and boys, whether my sons are walking down the street minding their business, will they just be targeted to be searched or stopped and questioned as another form of stop and frisk? So where do we find the happy medium?
That's where the sharing of information comes. Like in the video discussed, they're going to be getting a lot of information from the community. This is not like a broad blanket that they're going to be going out and, like you said, just targeting people that might not be involved in any type of crime and so forth. Because they are a small portion of the community that's committing most of the crime, and these are the people that are going to be targeting. And it's through information with the community and our intelligence officers where they are going to be targeting this small group of people.
I understand that, and that's great. And I accept that answer, but at the same time, a lot of these young kids dress the same, whether they're college students or bangers or whatever you want to call them. How would you distinguish? I don't think you may not be able to.
It's not about what they're wearing. It's the information that the officer's getting, the intelligence information that they're getting.
Okay, so it'll be based on intelligence information.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
I know I'm always vocal about not seeing anyone patrolling on my side. I had the day off today, so I actually saw them outside in the daytime. My issue is still, y'all need to come when I'm coming home at around 5, 6 o'clock, because that's the time where the workers that are coming home from work, and we want to be safe coming from the subways, because Uber is too expensive and parking is too expensive. So when we're taking the trains, we're already scared about the safety on the train. So when we come out the trains, we don't want to feel the same way that we are on the trains. So I don't want anyone following me from Utica or following me from Ralph Avenue, and seeing the police out there kind of does deter these people from following you. So yes, it was nice to see them patrolling my neighborhood when I went out in the middle of the day, but I still want to see them at 5, 6, or 7 o'clock when all of the workers are coming home.
We'll keep that in mind, definitely.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you your props for seeing them now, but like I said, that's daytime. I saw them out. They weren't harassed. They was just patrolling. That surprised me to see them. But I still want to, hopefully, when I go to work and I come home tomorrow, and I can actually be feeling safe coming and seeing someone patrolling up and down the streets. Thank you.
Lisa, that was interesting, because at the 77th Precinct Council meeting, they did mention that the tours are rotating and they change because they don't want people to know or be able to expect when and where they're going to be. So, intelligence is
I
both
get
ways.
that. I worked for NYPD for 14 years. I get how they do. I understand. But like I said, being a civilian employee, I also understand, like, I get it. But I'm still saying, I still want to see them. Like, I've not seen them on my way home 5, 6 o'clock. So yeah, they're rotating. So rotate one day around 5, 6 o'clock so the people who work and can see them. That's what I mean. But like I said, I still thankfully, I'm happy that I did see them. So I won't complain about that much. But what about people that's coming home from work? We still want to be feeling safe as well. That's my thing.
And you're also just talking about like foot posts, street patrol, the cars that are out. the presentation was about the neighborhood safety teams that are targeting.
Yeah, I know.
gun
I think I've
offenders.
seen some of it. That's what I saw the neighborhood safety team. I saw them. I'm just saying that I still feel like the patrol people, somebody needs to still be patrolling the neighborhood around those times because we want to feel safe when we're coming home from work. I won't back down from that one. I'm always going to say that, but I still give you props for seeing them, which I haven't seen them for a while around here. And that fact that I'm seeing them in the midday made me feel good. Thank you.
Making progress. I mean, but that is a major concern because I don't think that the leaders of the city should they should have been putting emphasis on safety when they had people going, a few people, not a lot, but those few people that was traveling the system, they should be able to feel safe while COVID was going on and all this crime was going on. But now since more people or the city's opening back up, there's much more emphasis on making a large amount feel safe. But also there should have been emphasis on all those people that was going back and forth because everyone's safety is important. Thank you for that, Lisa. Karen?
Hey, to the person who just asked about, their kids, their young men walking down the street, just an idea. Maybe we can give things out, the precinct can give flyers out at school as to how to behave when stopped by an officer so that the kids would know how to, just not to act out, and also to let them always have some form of ID on them. That might be helpful and avoid a lot of conflict in certain ways. What do you think?
Shaking her head no.
I mean, I think Ms. Fiore's comment pertains to unlawful stop and frisk that was going on in New York City for so long. And it's Black and brown kids walking down the street, cops jumping out of cars, throwing them against the wall to the ground, searching them unlawfully. How do you act appropriately when that happens to you?
Thank
if
you,
your
Martha.
ID's in your pocket, what does that matter if they're not asking you any questions or for ID, which you don't have to show ID, right, under the law. So it's a separate issue. But I really hope that the neighborhood safety teams can get the guns off the street in a safe and lawful way for the innocent kids that are just going to school, coming home from school, going to play basketball with their friends, because that's what it's about, getting the cops to do their jobs in a safe and healthy way for the innocents. And that's what the protection is for and what the intelligence is supposed to be about.
Thank you, Marv. I couldn't unmute myself fast enough. But I wanted to say I've been having this conversation with my sons since they were 10. I don't want to say how old they are because I don't want to give away my age. But the fact is that it's unfortunate that we as Black and brown parents have to have this conversation with our boys, our daughters, our husbands. And this is not a conversation that needs to be had in households that do not look like ours. And that's the unfortunate thing.
And let's not forget also that young Black girls are criminalized at very
I mentioned girls also.
Yeah,
Yes.
you did, but
thank you.
Yeah.
That is definitely a concern. I mean, one of the things that we have to do is to try to reduce the amount of crime in our neighborhood maybe in a different fashion where that we can educate our kids and promote education, promote peace. I mean, because unfortunately with our music and it's just pumping one thing that we can't blame it on the music, but we need allies. We need as much allies and also advertisement in our housing. I mean, there should be something about education in all of our housing complex. Signs about education, read to your kids and so forth. I mean, we need to promote those things, not just for the kids. Also, that was the discussion about the parents. That's all maybe educating the parents. Ms. Granville?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, when we see young people in groups around liquor stores, even though we may not be going into the liquor store, is there any way we can register that complaint with our precinct? Because I'm sure that it discourages some people. When I see a whole bunch of young people around, I don't want to go in there. And I'm trying to understand, since the weather will be changing, exactly what can be done. Because sometimes I think the storekeepers are a little bit intimidated because these folks just plant themselves right outside and they stay there for long periods of time. Did you hear me?
Yeah, if at any time, you can always call 911 if you feel unsafe. But people just standing around is, it's not a crime. But if, like you said, there has to be other circumstances that would lead you to feel unsafe. And if that's the case, then I would definitely call 911.
Okay, because it's not just people standing there talking to each other. It's done in such a way that as a female, I would feel leery about going in there. And if I had a grandmother or an older sister, I'm sure they would feel leery also.
Yeah, definitely. But they could, the business can call us. If you're a customer going in, you can call us and we can see what's going on.
That's a funny one. I mean, calling 911, I'm always concerned about them hanging out or what they may have. But if I call 911, they rolling in, and 911 is telling me an emergency, and if they're rolling in, they're going to roll in to do their job, and their job is to enforce the law. So call 911 in our community. They might be just hanging, and it's intimidation for some people. But if you call 911, the cops are coming to do their job, and it's a balancing thing that needs to be done. And we'll see how it goes with that one. But
Mark, I just wanted to ask one other question. Are there any types of dogs that should not be allowed in this city? Because I see people sometimes with these huge dogs, especially the Rottweilers, and sometimes they don't seem like they're keeping a tight control on the leash. They have them outside the store sometimes to the point where they're in the middle of the sidewalk. Are all kinds of dogs allowed in New York City?
As far as I'm aware, there aren't any restrictions on dogs.
I mean, there are leash laws, right?
Yes,
So
there are leash laws, but not specific breeds. No.
Okay.
And I mean, if a dog is dangerous in that it has actually attacked someone, then, ASPCA might come get it, evaluate it, and make sure that it's not a danger to the community. And if it is, it might get put down or something like that if they can't rehabilitate the dog, but nothing is prohibited. No particular breed is prohibited.
Brian?
You can, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was
Okay.
just,
Lisa.
I was just going to say that you have to understand sometimes people have therapy dogs, and yes, therapy dogs can be the big Rottweiler, they can be the pit bull because they go through trainings. There are people in Nitro who have pit bulls that actually went as therapy dogs, and that's why they're allowed to have these big dogs in their apartment, and they're not being penalized for having the dogs over a certain weight. So some of these dogs may look big, and it's also about who's the owner. So if the owner's making them violent and aggressive, that's why they're violent and aggressive. But most big dogs are not, and they're allowed to have them.
Okay.
Brian?
Thank you.
I just want to go back as far as like the neighborhood safety teams, just hit on the point. Well, Mark and I, we had a chance to actually sit down and introduce and talk to them as well. And one of the things I did tell them was that, in the past, there was no accountability. There was just rolling up on everyone and just tossing. This time, there's supposed to be a little bit more accountability as far as, a little community involvement. So we had a chance to sit down and talk to them. And then what I said to them was, hey, you guys are out here and you have to realize that what our people have gone through before as far as dealing with you and just jumping up and being tossed. And we have anger and we might have emotions. It's not just you, not the person, but it's the uniform. And for you to come out here, you have to learn to communicate with the people that you represent. Because what did I say? Some of them did not look like they represent the community, but you have to communicate and understand where you are in this community and understand what you're dealing with. So I think it's a good idea. There's a little bit more accountability. It's a different approach to looking for firearms. There's supposed to be an oversight as far as precinct, borough, and one police plaza about these units. So hopefully this week time will tell what we see and what we experience with them. You know, the impact of guns is I don't know where all these guns are coming into our neighborhood at this time, but we need them off the streets. The summer's coming and getting warm. Pandemic is people. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but people are coming back out in the streets. And as far as the loitering, we have to be careful with that also, because you want to create a problem. You know, it's like you might see some guys hanging out with it's basically like profiling ourselves. You know, you're calling someone and say, hey, these guys, you're profiling also. So we have to be careful also what we do, and just we have to learn to police ourselves and communicate with them. We live here, and that's what I told the police. We live here. They go home. You know what I'm saying? So we don't get a chance to disengage. They can disengage. So it's up to us. Feedback to Mark, myself, Vidal, and just let everyone just observe and see what's going on. As far as Lisa, with the problem that you're having over in your neighborhood, speak to Mark, Vidal, your NCOs. Vidal, let's try to get some people over there walking through. I mean, also the PSA. We need to get more involvement from the PSAs, from the precinct, and these other special units. Yes, but you know, you got to go back to the old way where it was like community policing, and not just the broken windows. So
I think also that's a good point, Mr. Saunders, because the cure violence model talks about community engagement and credible responders, right? You want your community to be involved and say, hey, you're not acting the right way. We don't want to have to get the police involved, but if you don't act correctly, then it's going to get taken to that next level. And I know it's intimidating for a young woman, an older woman, even some men to be involved, because you never know what these young people are having. But when we're talking about increasing funding to the cure violence organizations like SOS, like Osei was saying, like we need to expand their catchment area, because these are guys that have been through the streets. They know how to talk to these younger people or criminally involved people who might need a stern talking to get them to change their behavior. And I know even in Broward Park, a guy pulled the gun. It was one of the OGs that said, yo, put that away. We're not going to do that here. You're not going to shoot anybody here. And I'm there with my kids like, oh, we can't even leave because the way this dude is pointing the gun is the way to our house. But the community talked him down. And then the police came later, right? But it was the community that talked him down. So we have to also think about being responsible for ourselves.
And one more thing, we did have a meeting the other day, and you're right. The focus is always on the males and the boys. And I expressed this to Inspector Brown a long time ago. What are we doing for the girls? What are we doing for the young women? And so now that's one of the things that they're working on also. It's just not boys and girls, good or bad. It's like we have to try, if we can just, one, and just by word of mouth spread it and just have something that they can be a part of, because that's what gangs are is like being a part of something. So if they have a reason to be a part of something that's positive, hey, we could stop a lot of that. So you have Mark, you have Vidal, you have also Wallen, and there's other people involved, yourself also, and just so much things we can do, and we have to go back to, it's like there's a 30-year cycle or a 40-year cycle about like the communities. You see how the community, one is one way, then it changes and comes back. So it's just kind of like read the cycle how it goes, and like we have to catch it before it gets out of control. So I mean, I'm thankful for individuals like Mark, Marva, the people who've been here before, Ms. Robinson, Ozzy, and like we're learning from you, and I'm learning from you. So, just keep giving us your guidance and everything like that. But we have to also remember that I'm a parent now. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm a parent now. It's like when my mother and my father used to talk to me, I didn't really listen. So how do we communicate to the younger ones. So we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we have to learn to listen to them a lot more than what we say. So that's a lesson in itself. That's all I have to say.
Good.
Brian. Extremely important. Sharon?
Is she there?
So much to say. I just wanted to touch on 3 items. The concern that Fiora expressed around our children and what we have to do. Essentially, we're asking our children to be perfect from the age of 11 to 23, where hopefully they will have had an opportunity to have education behind high school. And it's inherently unfair. Other communities don't have to have this conversation with their children. It's not if the police stop you, it's when the police stop you. And the persistent, if you talk about the cycle of crime, the persistence of that existence, whereas a be it boy or girl, you have to be on your P's and Q's. They're looking for the boys to have guns. They're looking for the girls to shoplift. And when it happened to me, I didn't understand what was going on because I considered myself a good kid. So then we were talking about what's going to happen in the summer with gun violence. I have to say, I just spent my third birthday with the hangover of the pandemic. And I have to tell you, everybody is sick and tired of being inside. But this gun violence that's been going on makes you want to stay close to home. So I'm very wary for the summer, and I would love to work with people to make sure how we can be safer while we're outside, because even though we can have everything ordered in, you get sick and tired of looking at your own 4 walls. And talking about those 2 things, I had an incident where I shared with Mark recently where I was getting off the subway. I had the wildest subway ride in my life, from a young mother reaching into her bag, pulling out a joint and lighting it right next to her toddler. And when I say this child was a toddler, he was playing on his Fisher-Price toy. Across from her and next to me, somebody was rolling up a joint. And in the back of the car, there were 2 different teenage groups that were having a fight. That fight moved up to the mezzanine when I got off the train station at Utica Avenue. So talk about fear, bravado, and I don't know what the hell to do. Myself and another grown woman faced 2 different groups of boys and told them to take the behinds home, right? Because you want to call the police officers, but you don't want to have, and these are teenagers, I would say between the ages of 13 and 17, you don't want to have that police interdiction, because we know what it's done for the previous generation, for young men that are now in their 30s, in terms of having that interdiction with police. So I'm fearful. I'm hoping this new policing modality is going to be improvement of the old, but I don't know. People quickly, especially in our communities, and I'm talking about the 7-1 and 7-7, fall into old bad patterns, which means that somebody's abused and misused. And oftentimes the cases that only come to light is because someone has an interest, as then Senator Adams, now Mayor Adams, did when police abused a postal worker, or somebody that got abused knows somebody. And I would love to operate in the opportunity that I don't have to know anybody special. Ms. Granville also brought up an issue about the loitering around liquor stores. For me, I've always seen an indication of, in that particular neighborhood, there's nothing for not nothing. There are not opportunities for people to engage, young people to engage at multiple levels. Sometimes you just want to socialize. People can't hang out in front of their building. People can't hang out in their apartment. Where do these people go, especially on Friday and Saturday?
Lost your voice. You hear Sharon? I don't hear anymore. I don't hear her. Sharon, you're not being heard now.
I think she was just.
Sharon, we can't hear you.
Okay. Quasi, we're going to come to you, but 1 second. We're going to take
9 the sororities and the fraternities, because Lord knows we need to have a model of community service and what it means to grow up. And that's
Sharon,
all I have to say.
Sharon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
your voice trailed off the past few lines. We didn't hear you after a while.
Oh Lord. I don't know if I can repeat all of that. So I just want to say passionately, not only, that we have to be an active part of the program. It's unfair to ask children from the ages of 11 to 23 to be perfect, because you don't have the opportunity for youthful indiscretion. And it's, programming
And it begins at home. If you don't have that model at home, maybe the Divine Nine can help us out with that.
That's
Right.
all I have to say.
Quasi, before we go to you, Christina, Kristen, we brought up this issue about the scooters on the sidewalk. I forgot that you guys were here. Could you please bring that over to our city council members in reference to that? Because we have a major concern with scooters that's riding on the sidewalk, scooters and these motorbikes and the motorcycles.
Yes, I am aware of that. I do get a lot of constituent calls regarding the bikes, especially like the delivery people, Grubhub. So
Yes.
I'm in the process of the council member does have a meeting with Grubhub and he's gonna address that with them during that meeting.
Okay, very good. That's extremely important. We don't need to be making the news where someone gets seriously hurt by one of these motorbikes. Thank you
Yes,
very much for that.
no problem.
Kristen, yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Christina said. We also have like a ton of concerns coming in as well, but it'd be super helpful if you guys can forward us like any specific areas that any problematic areas. I know it's throughout our district entirely, but if you guys can like identify like specific streets where you see a lot of issues happening, that would be really helpful.
Okay. What we'll do, we'll put together the list that we have. I mean, create a list. I mean, it's really almost throughout the entire area. I mean, everyone gets delivery now, so I don't think that any block can be left out, and I don't really want to leave out any block. So we could almost say it's entire Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, Weeksville area. That's the concern, and they come for everywhere. So it is a concern. It's the Grubhub and that Uber Eats. So I'm glad that you're addressing it to the company because it needs to be come from the top and work its way down. Because if the boss is telling everybody stay off the sidewalk, and if you get a call if you get a call more than once or twice or 3 times, then you know you're going to be suspended or whatever. They will be staying off the sidewalk as much as possible. So I'm glad that you're taking it up to the top with the executives and let it work its way down. Quasi,
Yes.
we're going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to call it a night.
Somebody spoke to, I guess, what to teach our sons. I want to emphasize sons because the sons are the ones who are the targets and unfortunate targeters as a rule in aggregate. So focusing on the sons. Okay? I don't know if you remember the book called The Little Black Book by Carol Taylor. It was written in the 80s. If you can find it, get it. Little Black Book is a little guide for our families on how to teach our sons in particular how to interact with police. Now, one of the suggestions, I never did with my sons. One suggestion was bring your sons to the precinct and meet the captain. Let them engage on that level. Bring them to the precinct. Let children on. These are my children. This officer so-and-so. That is one step I recall from that book. Lastly, while I am very, very encouraged from the stories I heard from Marvin Brown Henry and Sharon Wedderburn, I sometimes get the sense from others that we forget how bad things were and are in this city. At one time, we had 2,000 murders in this city. And type of policy, we're going to have 600 murders. That's a big, big, big drop. We're forgetting this. I'm hoping it doesn't go up to that again. I'm hoping. But we cannot delude ourselves. There's some serious problems. There's some bad people out there. And they should be stopped. And they will kill, and they are more of a threat to me than a cop. Thank you.
I'd like to chime in.
Regina, yes. Regina,
Yes.
and then I think that'll be it. Any other questions? Go ahead, Regina.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to chime in on the guns coming in, as Brian stated. Yes, we do need to shut down that iron pipeline. I think the officials absolutely know how and when and where the guns are coming in. That does need to be shut down. But we must be mindful as well that the guns are not shooting themselves. The guns are not invisible and just picking up and killing people. There are people behind the gun that's shooting people. So we cannot lose focus on the guns only. And as Quasi say, these criminals do need to be locked up. We cannot continue to have a pity party because someone maybe had a bad experience growing up. It's enough of these bad excuses for bad behavior. And as Sharon stated, that is it fair to ask a 12-year-old from 12 to 23 to be the perfect person? It may not be fair, but is it fair to ask the community to help raise your child? Is it fair to ask a parent to take a deeper role, a deeper role into their child's life to see that there's some civility, some manners, and respect for others? Is that fair? Is it fair to ask the policeman not only to be a law enforcement, law to protect us, but also be a social worker and a parent at times? Is that fair? It's a lot of things we have to ask ourselves. Is it fair? Because it seems like a lot of responsibility from bad behavior is being poured into the community. It has gotten to the point that it's affecting all of us. It's affecting all of us, and we need to be mindful of that and ask ourselves, should we be asking for more accountability from where these children and these young adults came from? Because I don't see us mentioning parents. We're mentioning what we could do, what program could help, and everything else. Nothing about the household where the story starts. The story starts in the household. So yeah, Kwasi's right. You're out here trying to help people who it may be too late and not even concerned with trying to be helped. They're picking up the guns and using it against us. And is it fair for us to act like police officers is the Black person's number one enemy when I'm afraid to go out my door? And it's not because I'm afraid of a police officer. I have been active in the community and civically engaged for over 20 years. And the stuff that we're discussing on this Zoom tonight was discussed then. It's an ongoing broken record. We are saying the same thing over and over about these young kids. And it's to the point, and I gotta be honest, that I am disgusted and I'm embarrassed because we are the only ones in our culture discussing kids that's not even in our household. I have seen other meetings and you don't see our counterparts and nobody else talking about our kids need something to do and the behavior and the killings and people dying. We have to come to the realization and change this conversation because it's been 20 years I've been hearing it. Face the reality of it, that there are people who are not doing what they're supposed to do in terms of their household. You do have a lot of parents who try. Those parents do need to seek help, but you have some that's just turned 2 or 3 year olds on the street, 2 or 3 in the morning. Like Sharon said, the woman's lighting up weed in front of the child. And what do our politicians do? Make it legal. So now you got parents all over lighting up with babies in the household. Some things we have to fight our politicians on. Is that hurting us, making weed legal? When we already know the situation in our community, alcohol to go, when we already know the situation in our community, and then we got people talking about, oh, more people drinking since the pandemic. But now they're making it, hey, go ahead and drink more. We cannot continue to let these conversations fall by the wayside because that's all we're gonna, 20 years from now, if we don't really step up and come to the realization, we'll be talking about the same thing. And how many lives would have been lost at that point while we make excuses and blame other people for it? That's my comment for the night.
30 years ago, I had the same conversation. 30 years ago. Okay?
Thank you,
30.
It is a major concern getting into the homes. I mean, it's not the police's job to get into people's homes and to teach them. So we have to see how they can.
No, it isn't. But we got to change our conversation and solutions. We have a lot of these mothers that need the city help. My solution was, from the moment of inception, when they're going out there for the WIC, when they're going out there for the social services, we need mandatory parenting classes. A lot of these people need to learn how to be a parent. instead of just having these kids. And then other people have to raise them or the streets raise them. And they're not even making it to 15, 16, 17, or 18 because of that. We have to change the conversation. And it's not just about these programs letting them have somewhere to go. That I never asked anyone where my child's going to go after school because I know where he was going. You come in, you take a bath, you do your homework, and you eat and go to bed for the next day on a school night. On the weekend, there was no problems with me finding something or somewhere for him to go. There are things out here if people took the time to look for them. I didn't ask anyone, where's my child going to go? There's nothing for kids to do. And we should be ashamed of ourselves, constantly saying that. We're the only people.
Because our counterparts have programs for their kids that our kids do not have. So when people say that, I get what you're saying, but you realize that our kids do not get the same type of programs that these other kids get. My daughter goes to a school that is programs that teaching them coping with anxiety. They're teaching them how to deal with the issues that the social emotional wellness and things like that. They're not getting all of this in there. They're giving things to parents to teach them how to get the kids involved and do different things. There are programs that are not being offered to our communities. And yes, we should say for some of the things you're just saying, but it's like you're putting discord within the community.
I found programs
I'm
for
gonna
my
say what I'm
child
gonna
to
say, and
go
I'm gonna stand
to.
by what I stand by, and we don't offer these programs. And
I
on that
found
note, you have a good night.
programs for
Everyone
my
have a good night.
child to go to. If
Well,
I could find a program, so could someone else.
Discipline is the problem. Early discipline, guidance early.
Discipline is right.
1. That's where it starts. I don't care. My parents, I come from a family of 9. There are 9 of us. I understand that, and my parents were never college educated. It doesn't matter. It's the discipline.
That's right. That's right.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. However, I mean, it's a combination of several things. You know, I'm fortunate that I came up with a parent that was there, and my kids are fortunate where they have a parent. Some kids don't have structure, but it is a combination of both. I mean, we definitely need to go into the homes,
Everybody wants
of the homes, and also support them with activities. So it's a combination of both, and I think we all are saying the same thing, but we definitely should not have to speak about this another 10, 20 years, but it's definitely, we're all on the same track.
Change the conversation.
It's time to, we are saying the same conversation. I mean, we need accountability. I totally agree with you. But you know, but we have to see how we can get into those homes or force them to be accountable. And also,
we need laws on parenting classes that could be made official. You want the different social services, then you have to take parenting classes. People getting fired because they didn't take the vaccine. So you can't tell me you can't implement parenting classes through the Board of Education and through WIC and the doctor's offices. There's a lot of things that could be implemented and put in force to stop this.
Well, that's something that has to be taken up with the officials, and you know,
exactly. So
absolutely. We can definitely
absolutely
with them on that. I mean, I'm quite sure they may see it in the same way, but it's unfortunately they had left a little early. But it is something that we can bring up to them, and it's extremely important too. Thank you for that, Regina. You know, you voiced your concerns over the years, so I totally understand what you're saying. You know, you've always voiced it.
It's not, and matter of fact, it's just not my concern. It's a lot of people's concern, but they're afraid to talk about it in fear that they may be insulting someone. But the truth is the truth, and that's what we need to start speaking. The truth.
Yes, that is part of the truth. Is correct.
Can I say something? This is Christina from Councilmember Chiofe's office. I'm out of breath. I was ran up the stairs. The lady that just said something about social services, I remember back in Bloomberg's days when they mandated people to go to work if they wanted to get stamps or continue their benefits. And that same thing could happen, like she said, for parenting. They mandated that and people went to work. They did the web program, they did all that stuff because they wanted their benefits. So that same thing can work. And I will definitely bring that to the council members' attention and see if there's something that we can do around that.
All right.
Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
And I guess that's one of the benefits of having a call like this, where we're a variety of committees and our representatives and the city council members to participate. I think that is it. Anything, guys? And I want to thank the city council members participating in our meeting. Thank you guys very much. Vidal, thank you very much for being out here. And I want to thank everybody else for participating. We'll see you guys next month. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.